Captain, unidentified warp signature in Sector 71. The comms officer's shout shattered the calm of the station. All crews to stations, all hands on deck, Captain Terran barked, standing tall at the command bridge. Within moments, every man and woman had abandoned their quarters, leaving behind the glow of their Casserin crystal displays for the cold steel and polymer of their posts. Warp signature intensifying. Detecting capital-class vessel, estimated length, 1,100 meters. That's a dreadnought. Shields at maximum, Terran ordered, concern flickering in his eyes. Border skirmishes were common, especially with the Sarantis so close. This could very well be a raid. Sarantis bastards might be preparing a surprise strike. Call for reinforcements. Warp bubble collapse in 3, 2, 1. Target sighted. But the Leviathan that emerged was no Sarantis warship. It was unlike anything known. A colossal vessel, the size of a city, stretched over 1 kilometer long, bristling with cannons. Its armor gleamed in dark gray, trimmed with red and gold. At the prow, a massive, nightmarish effigy of a creature's skull loomed. Along its broadsides, a strange emblem unfurled, a black flag with a golden gear wheel. Inside it, a 7-pointed scarlet star. Every meter of its hull was etched with countless letters and symbols, a language foreign yet commanding. The nearer it drew, the less it frightened us, and the more it compelled us. Every plate, every beam was hand-forged to perfection. Thousands of tiny statues lined its surface, holy seals and golden inscriptions carved into the armor. It closed in on the station. I stood with the captain, watching. Suddenly, our communications went dead. Silence. Then a voice, hauntingly beautiful, unearthly. The words were incomprehensible, yet the sound drove us into a trance. Across the system, every screen, every channel, every array broadcast this song. More voices soon joined, a dozen, harmonizing in flawless unison. Some spoke, some hummed, weaving a melody that crushed us with sorrow, grief, and loss deeper than anything we had ever known. The vessel glided gracefully, halting beside the station. Its underbelly opened, releasing a smaller, wrecked craft. Then it drifted aside, turning with a maneuver that should have torn any ordinary ship apart, before holding position in solemn vigil as the hymn continued. 7 minutes it lasted. On the planet below, thousands wept. Men, women, even hardened soldiers and admirals. Troops readied for battle instead stood motionless, saluting by instinct. Then the music shifted. Its rhythm quickened, its tone lifted, flooding every soul with pride and triumph. Officers wiped away tears of grief, replaced by tears of joy. Children once crying now laughed, smiling through wet cheeks. A tidal wave of pride swept over the populace. Warships we had called for arrived, but none dared act. They hovered close, scanning, silent, struck dumb as though a god had commanded obedience. The song ended. Abrupt as its arrival, the Colossus surged forward, vanished into warp, and was gone. Our communications returned as if nothing had happened. Systems flickered back to life. I stepped closer to the viewport, wiping tears from my face, struggling to compose myself. Then I saw what it had left behind. "By the gods, is that the polio?" I gasped, recognizing the broken vessel drifting near the station. What? Captain Terran and several others rushed to the viewing port, and there it was. The polio, one of our first great exploration ships, carrying the finest minds of our people, thought lost to the void decades ago. Our pioneering vessel lay before us, reduced to wreckage, its frame twisted and scarred, covered in strange emblems and seals. It looked incapable of flight, bound together by foreign metallic casings that kept it from crumbling apart. Panic spread. Boarding crews scrambled, and I followed close behind, sealed inside a precious suit. We entered through the main cargo, bay, and the sight shattered us. Coffins. Rows upon rows of 247 coffins, perfectly arranged under the soft blue glow of ornate lights resembling eternal candles. Each coffin bore a clear viewport, displaying the still faces within. Some of the crew desperately tried to open them, clinging to hope the occupants lived. My eyes caught a glimmer. Silver. I rushed forward. It was a necklace I knew too well. Inside the coffin lay my granddaughter. My knees buckled as I reached toward the glass, longing for one last embrace. My sobs echoed through the bay, others gathering around me, but I was broken. The discovery left us in shock. Months passed before we fully processed what we had found. Much of that time was spent giving the fallen proper burials. The coffins were built from a polycarbonate substance resembling artificial wood, bodies preserved by toxic yet inert fluids that slowed decay. They appeared peaceful, more asleep than dead. The sight was unsettling yet strangely comforting. Once funeral rites concluded, questions swirled. It felt sacrilegious to harvest samples from the fluids, so our scientists tried to recreate them, with what little data we had. Families even offered their loved ones for testing. We refused. We swore never to dishonor this act. A month later, our heroes were laid to rest and we returned to our duties. But what was that ship? Scans collected during the encounter revealed staggering details. Its alloy was impossibly advanced, impervious to our strongest weapons. Its shields dwarfed our flagships by tenfold. Its energy readings were astronomical, greater than what gas giants in our system produced. Armaments identified from imagery alone suggested superiority by orders of magnitude. Kinetic bombardment cannons, ballistic batteries, beam weapons, missile bays capable of launching thousands. And the language? Their technology defied reason. They had seized our communications grid entirely, yet we detected no intrusion, no signals, no trace of access. They had simply taken control. To sing. Translation software eventually identified the tongue as Latin. While work began to decipher the song, we searched the polio's logs. The truth was cruelly simple. A meteor collision after warp exit near an asteroid field. 24 crew lived briefly, only to perish of hunger or exposure, while the rest were killed instantly from impact or suffocation. I broke down repeatedly during reviews, watching recordings of At last, after long hours and several painful breakdowns, the algorithm finished its work. The translation appeared. It is better to honor a life well lived, and the market leaves, on others, than to mourn the passing of a soul. As long as you are remembered, as long as your footsteps remain upon the path you walked, death has no power. Only the forgotten are truly gone. If you are remembered, if you are loved, you endure. As long as your influence remains, as long as the shade of the tree you planted lingers, you are eternal. If you are loved, then you have given more to the universe than the death of 1,000 suns could take away. In memory of the fallen, those who came before and gave everything so that we might live, we salute you. To those who bled in wars, long past we salute you. Together we carry your sacrifice forward. Into the void, in your footsteps, your thunderous voices shall echo. Together, into eternity. Raise a glass to the past. Share your bread with the present. Together to victory. Together into the void. Against eternity, we endure. Rest, for your work is done. Rest, for now it is our turn. Rest, for your greatness lives through us. We are those you lived for, fought for, died for. We are the future. We will not falter. Together, to tomorrow. Together, into the void. Together, forever. Together, we are immortal. These words shattered the empire, truly shattered us. In front of our greatest warriors, a general broke down sobbing. Our emperor locked himself in the temple for a week, refusing food as penance. Temples and graveyards overflowed with tens of thousands. Networks flooded with confessions, apologies, pleas for forgiveness. Even crime lords walked into police stations, locking themselves away. All of society shifted because of a single ship's gesture, an act of respect for the dead and kindness for the living. But questions remained. Who? Why? Even as revelations rocked us, war raged. Barely 2 star systems away, the Serene still pressed against our borders. Weeks later, it came to a head. I was stationed at a defense hub, overseeing trade with allies, when the alarms screamed. A Serene fleet emerged, hundreds of warships, then hundreds more, then thousands. Even with every reserve, we had no chance. We would be erased. But we swore to drag as many down with us as possible, and then it appeared, their flagship. The Planet Killer. The very ship that had annihilated Kessan Prime at the war's beginning. Thankfully, Kessan had not been heavily populated, but its loss had scarred us all. Now, that same terror stood before us. The Serene fleet was overwhelming. We could not win. They hailed us. On the screen, their emperor himself, Juad Valheim, appeared aboard his monstrous flagship. "I demand your presence," he growled. "To negotiate terms of surrender, I presume," I answered dryly, stalling. A lance of energy burst from one of his escorts, a warning shot that lit the void. "That was your warning. Do not force me to repeat myself," Juad thundered. I relayed his words to our own emperor, Afahed III. Within the hour, we boarded a shuttle to their emissary barge. Inside, Juad sat upon a grand throne, his fury written across his face as we entered. Red-skinned Juad and blue-skinned Afahed, 2 species alike, yet divided. Blue-skinned, shorter but stronger. Red-skinned, taller, sharper of mind. Rivals, locked in endless bloodshed. "Juad, Afahed. We meet again," I announced as the meeting was broadcast across the stars. Silence fell so absolute that a rodent's sneeze could have been heard across 12 systems. Juad's expression twisted, then shattered. Suddenly, he fell to his knees, pressing his forehead to the ground, sobbing uncontrollably. "Please, forgive us," he wept, his tears staining the floor. Emperor Afahed stood frozen, jaw slack, stunned by what he was witnessing. The sight was staggering. A generational enemy, brought low, weeping on the floor. A warrior king reduced to a broken figure before his people. Afad and I exchanged bewildered glances as Juad struggled to steady his sobs long enough to speak. "How many, brother?" he choked. "How many lives have we wasted in this war? How many sons and daughters did we throw to their deaths? All for nothing. Nothing. It was all a lie." His voice cracked between sobs. Juad pressed a control, and holograms filled the air. Evidence unfolded before us, nearly causing me to collapse. Images of preserved remains, crew laid in immaculate coffins, faces of both blue and red-skinned alike, and among them, a young mother holding a child with purple skin. Liars, traitors, murderers, criminals. They told us the ships were destroyed by you. They fabricated everything, drove us into madness, into a war against our own kin. Juad roared. "They are gone now, erased with every ounce of malice I could summon, and now I pay the price for my folly." His voice cracked again as he lowered his head, raising his arms as if surrendering his life. "Forgive me." For a long moment, Emperor Afahed was silent. Then he stepped forward, grasped Juad's trembling hands, pulled him to his feet, and embraced him. Both men wept openly. "You are forgiven, brother," Afahed whispered. Months passed. The war faded into memory. Reparations forgotten, sacrifices overlooked. Peace itself was all that mattered. A new chapter of history began, yet a question remained. Why? Juad's fleets, too, had encountered the same mysterious vessels, the same markings, the same script, even the same haunting music. only theirs was even larger. On the anniversary of our alliance, an answer came. In the Grand Hall, a young comms officer from a patrol cruiser burst in, dodging guards to reach the Emperors. She was wild with excitement, clutching a portable console, while Jawad shouted in anger, "What is the meaning of this intrusion?" "I found it," she cried. "Found what?" Jawad demanded, his old temper flashing. "The Temperance, one of our probes latched onto the ship that recovered the polio. It sent a signal back 20 minutes ago," she exclaimed. She pulled up a galactic chart highlighting a remote system. The designation read Sol. The signal was garbled, but she worked furiously, muttering, "Almost there. Yes, the probe took pictures." A display flickered to life, and what we saw shattered us. Thousands of ships stretching across the void. Each one scarred, abandoned, in varying states of decay. Every vessel bore plaques, inscribed with hundreds of names. Each plate carried the words, "Death is not that which must be feared. It is a companion we must take in stride. Gone, but never forgotten lest more be lost, never forget." A graveyard, a system-wide graveyard. Our hearts sank. The probe's bioscan returned silence, lifeless silence. The ships were automated husks, despite heavy damage. Our commanders whispered uneasily, questioning what could have possibly inflicted such wounds. More data streamed in. Images showed the staggering scale, derelicts of countless civilizations locked in orbit by artificial gravity anchors, fighters to titans spanning miles. Mega-structures littered every world, refineries, military outposts, collapsed Matryoshka brains, even a shattered stellar ignition array drifting near a gas giant. A monument to death, but somehow not entirely lifeless. And yet, one puzzle gnawed at us. Where was everyone? Machines operated tirelessly, but no people, none living at least. Then I spotted it. "There, zoom in!" Everyone turned as the image sharpened. Clear against the hull of a broken warship was the figure of a bipedal being in a massive mech suit, welding a memorial plate into place. "By the ancients," Jawad whispered. "I see it. 2 arms, a head, 2 legs, even through that armor. Unmistakable. Do you have anything that shows it closer?" Afade asked the technician. "No, my lord. That was the last image I managed to capture. We are still receiving more. The next will arrive in roughly 2 minutes, then another 8 for the full stream to process." "We are working as quickly as possible," she replied, trying to remain composed. "In the meantime, Captain Terran, prepare our vessel and chart a course to that system." "I have an idea," I said aloud, excusing myself from the table. "Wait, the last image is ready. It just came through now." The final picture appeared. We nearly leapt from our seats as the strange being now stood directly before the lens, gazing into it. Its mouth was lifted in what was unmistakably a smile. Its eyes, a deep, haunting brown, conveyed with only the briefest look a sorrowful weight, carried within. "That is what remains." "Why?" Jawad muttered. "Why does it resemble us? Only lacking pointed ears and with its skin tinted pink," Afade answered, completing the thought. "Captain, ready our vessel. The voyage consumed 6 months. Sol lay 147 jumps away, yet we steeled ourselves for the journey. Jawad granted us one of his heavy battleships, converted for long endurance, sparing me the struggle of my aging diplomatic frigate. On the bridge were General Haki, Admiral Gohan, Captains Tar and Sorin. At my side was Master Reagan, fellow diplomat. As we neared the system's edge around the planetoid called Pluto, the tension was overwhelming. "I don't like this." "Not at all," General Haki muttered, staring through the viewport. "Neither do I." "What are you doing with that?" Admiral Gohan asked, pointing at the bouquet I held. "Trust me, I have a plan. Let me speak for us." the probe secured, files and relics from the Polyako. I know what I'm doing. I smiled, though it failed to ease anyone's nerves. Exiting hyperlane in 3, 2, 1, entry! The pilot shouted. Our ship emerged beyond the system's boundary. Almost instantly, 10 dreadnoughts materialized and locked weapons upon us. A synthetic voice seized our comms as a machine-like eye projected onto our bridge, piercing through shields and hull with ease. You have entered restricted territory. State objective immediately. You have 5 minutes to comply, the machine ordered, clearly unsettled. I replied firmly. We come to honor the fallen. One of our ships rests here. We request to speak with your overseer to reclaim it and bring it home. I raised the flowers so they could be seen. Processing request. Silence hung for moments. Confirmed. Ship registry and cargo align with intent. Gravekeeper has been notified. Proceed along designated course. Maintain low speed. Bright. Arrows formed before us, and our pilot carefully followed the path. The sights were overwhelming. Some vessels were titanic, over 20 miles long and nearly 4 high. Most structures, colossal stations, and megasites still seemed intact, functional. Even yet scans revealed no life, only machines. Millions of machines. Soon Admiral Gohan pointed toward our destination. Retribution's kiss, he said, the ship Jihad had lost decades earlier, a vessel full of heroes. I knew it, I exclaimed as we neared. I knew I saw that ship in the feed. The track I had been listening to while writing this was Beautiful Oblivion by Scott Buckley. It seemed to fit perfectly. Without warning, our comms were overridden, replaced by a haunting melody. A solemn, sorrowful tune. We docked against the Retribution's kiss with a heavy thud. Her entire aft section was shattered. Holes gaped across the rear superstructure, and a starboard thruster pod looked long scorched by fire. A mournful silence fell over us all as I stepped into the airlock. Inside, the sight stopped me cold. Rows of sacred coffins, each intricately adorned, their occupants appearing to rest peacefully. I advanced, keenly aware that I was not alone. My crew followed, and I gently set the flowers I carried atop one coffin. The others soon did the same, each bringing their own blossoms. Before long, nearly every crew member stood there, heads bowed, whispering silent prayers for the fallen. It was then we noticed the figure across the chamber, hands folded, head lowered in reverence. We continued a while longer, offering our tributes as scholars quietly documented the names of the dead. I gestured to the lone being at the far end of the hall, asking silently if we might bring the coffins home. He inclined his head in wordless consent, and I gave the order for a quiet retrieval. One by one, the bodies were borne away. When the final note of music faded, I looked beside me and truly saw him. He was 2 feet shorter than me, his features clearer now beneath his robe. A male, unmistakably. 5 fingers instead of 4. Hair upon his head and face gray and unkempt where we were bald. Rounded ears where ours were pointed. Never forget, he said softly. Forget, and more will be lost. Forget, and they are gone forever. I waited for the translator to finish before I replied. You are the gravekeeper the machines spoke of. That I am, he answered, lifting his gaze. The name is grim, or at least I think it still is. Been a long time since it mattered. About 1,400 years, give or take. Explain? I asked gently. He sighed. Look, son, we both know why you're here. Let's not dress it up. I've done this far too long to play games. You came because you saw one of your ships. But let's be honest, you came for more than just bodies. His eyes narrowed knowingly. I let out a slow breath. Yes. Advanced machines, warships, technologies beyond count. But at least believe this. We came with respect for the fallen. Our mourning is real. That I can believe, he said with a nod. At least you honor the dead. Now tell me, why are you truly here? To thank you, I said, voice heavy, for returning my granddaughter, for giving me back her ship, for giving me the chance to say goodbye. A tear welled in my eye as I smiled faintly. You're welcome. It's my duty, Grim replied. And the other reason? To ask questions, to seek trade, to see if we can be friends, I said, extending my hand. He studied me, sighed, and clasped it firmly. Friends, then. As we walked, he explained, my people abandoned the galaxy some 14 centuries ago. Enemies everywhere. Endless wars. No allies. This world became more graveyard than home. In the end, we had little choice but to leave. I was one of the few who stayed behind. With no friends to turn to, there was no reason to linger. So, we packed up and left. At a balcony, he gestured outward. All of this, we built it. And still, I remain. Earth filled the view beyond. That is tragic, I whispered. To abandon one's home like that. I'm not completely alone, Grim said. Sometimes pilgrims from the other galaxy visit. They come to Earth. And yes, we built much more than what you see. He paused, then glanced up at me with a sly smirk. So, how long until you leave? We must refuel, hold vigils, then return in a few days, I replied. Why? If you wait a week, Grim said, you'll witness a pilgrimage. I'm not the only human left in the universe. Just the only one here. Stay, and you'll have a chance at a true first contact with the Federation. His voice eased, calm at last. I lit up with excitement. Yes, of course. I will inform the commanders. I'll arrange everything. Thank you. Truly. Grim smiled faintly. Anything for a friend.